What's up, everybody? I'm Holy Moss, and welcome to the Ola's Images YouTube channel. My friend reached out to me the other day. She said, listen, I got this kit lens, right? This 24-105 L series, nice lens. She has a Nifty 50, that's a 50mm 1.8, and she had a 70-200. She had this guy right here. And so she wanted to know which one of those lenses she should use for this portrait, or if she should just rent one that's like way better. If there's one of these lenses that's better, not necessarily one of these, but just any lens. Because when you rent one, the sky's the limit. You can get anything you want. So I thought I'd just make a quick video for her and share with all you guys and tell you basically how I go about choosing a portrait lens, what I think about like how these lenses compare to these lenses, compared to these lenses, and like the breakdown, like why I would grab for one out of my camera bag versus another. I personally own all these. My business owns all of these, I guess. So this isn't sponsored. I'm not getting paid for this. This is not getting sponsored. I paid full price for all these. That's what I like to do. So we'll start here with like the wide angle lenses. We'll go to like the telephoto, medium telephoto kind of lenses, and then the telephoto to like more into the super telephoto kind of lenses, and like why I might grab a portrait shot with any one of these particular lenses. And then we'll go through like why I'm using an aperture, what aperture I'm using, why some of these lenses are better than others. Like for example, these two both shoot at 24mm. This one is a prime and this one is a zoom to 70mm. And so we'll talk about the difference between getting a prime lens and a zoom lens and why we would choose a different aperture. These are in order based on this one's the widest, 16-35. This one is like the most telephoto, closest to telephoto, at 24-70. So in that 70 range, we're getting near that telephoto range. And this one is just a prime at 24mm. So it doesn't zoom, it's right at 12mm, that's it. So a lot of people are gonna have this 16-35 in their kit. This is at f4. All the way through. The one we're shooting this on right now is at f2.8, but we'll get to the apertures and what they mean and like why we would choose different apertures in a second. But first of all, this is your widest, the widest that I own. Basically for this, what we're going to use for portraits, we might use a 16-35 for a portrait. Here you're going to get a very minimal background. It's going to be like everything is going to be de-emphasized in the background, and your subject is gonna pop. So if they have something that's like creepy, like way up here and close, makes them look really weird and creepy. And if you get that lens really close to their face, and you do just a headshot with that 16mm, for example, you're gonna get somebody's distorted face. Their nose is gonna look weird, their face is gonna look, ugh. Anyway, you don't like that. I don't like that. I don't know. Maybe that's the look you're going for. Maybe you want to look weird. That's how you do it. Jumping over here to the 24-70, this is going to be a great lens for like that natural kind of look, how your eyes see. Anywhere from like that 50-70 range is basically the compression that your eyes see, and so people's faces are going to look normal, their features are going to look the way you see them with your eye. And if I'm doing something for a client, for example, I'm going to use this 24-70 a lot because I can zoom quickly just like that and get the 70 from 24 and have a whole different shot without hardly moving anything. I'm going in tight, I'm going wide, I'm bouncing back and forth all the time for a client, and it's fast and easy and it works great. Focuses quickly, everything. If I'm doing something that's more artistic, then I would choose this guy. It's my 24mm f1.4, and I'm gonna use this one if it's just me and like my model, right? If like the time isn't a constraint, if I'm not working for a client and like the model and I aren't working for a client, if it's like a senior portrait, something like that, where I can be more artistic and have more time to do, this is like a photographer's lens, right? Like this is what I want to use all the time, is a prime lens, and just switch lenses, and when I got more time in my hands, this is what I'll use. This one is going to be my more artistic ones because this is at f1.4. So I'm going to get that shallow depth of field even though I'm really wide at 24. I'm not as wide as 16 and I'm way wider than 70 because this one will go to 70. These both go to 24. This one is if I'm working with a client, and this one is like if it's for me or for like a senior picture or something like that, you know what I mean? And this is also pretty good for client use sometimes if that's the look they're going for. Actually, these are 3 prime lenses, so none of these will zoom. Each of these are set at their focal length. This one's at 85 mil, this is at 100 millimeters, and this one is at 105 millimeters. So this 85 1.2 is at f1.2, and it's huge. Like, you can look down in this puppy and you can see it's got a big old aperture. It's really cool. This is a gorgeous lens if you're shooting somebody and you need that fall off. You need that background to just blur out and be unrecognizable. This lens is great for that. I love it for like a person, you know, for their headshots. It's really ideal. And then I'm gonna jump like I did before. I'm gonna jump over to this 105. I love this. This is at 105 millimeters at f1.4. Very similar look here. You're gonna be able to get the same look as this, but just step back a little bit, or this will reach just a little bit further. These are very, very comparable lenses, all 3 of them. I like this lens a lot for like a horse portrait kind of a thing. And then this lens is kind of, I brought it here today because it's kind of like in between these two as far as millimeters goes. It's definitely closer to this one. It's like a budget option. Even though it's an L series, you see this red ring. This means that it's the Canon's like flagship kind of lenses. Their L series red ring lenses are their best. This is actually a macro lens. You can see, maybe it'll, does it focus? It'll focus right there, and 100 millimeter macro. So that means if you want to take pictures of like flowers or something up really super close, like if you're taking a picture here, this will also focus at a great distance too. So it's great for portraits. I've used this for portraits lots of times and it's wonderful. It's at f2.8, so normally that's a pretty fast, is what they call our big aperture, but in this group here it's the slowest and smallest aperture. So you're gonna get more of a, you're still gonna get a really great shot. Don't get me wrong. These two are prettier when it's all said and done. These are gonna be prettier. This is budget option. So as far as costs go, this cost me a little over $2,000. This was roughly $1,500, but this one was like $800. So like pretty big difference. Like less than half the price of this one, right? So if you guys are more budget minded when you're just getting started, this is a great little lens. Let's get in to the telephoto, and this one gets into that super telephoto range at the end of it. Alright, this lens is a great little workhorse lens. It's good for all kinds of projects, but today we're talking about portraits. When you shoot somebody's portrait with this, whether at 70, which is good, or 200, which in my opinion is probably better, or even like in that middle ground, that 100 plus range, you're gonna get their facial features to look right. They're gonna look like you see them, if not maybe a little bit more compressed than normal, but they're gonna look really good. And you're gonna get that background to blur. It's called bokeh. And so you're gonna see, especially if you do like a headshot, right? So you're like chest up kind of shot, you're really close, you're racked into 200, you're zoomed into 200 millimeters, you're at 2.8, like it doesn't matter where you're at, that background is gonna look nice. You're not going to be able to tell what's in the background at all. You can be shooting these portraits in some like barn or whatever, you know what I mean? Out in the field, doesn't matter. The background is not going to like really have an effect. So you'll see this one used a lot in like commercial work. I'll use this one. Same thing with that 24 to 70. I can zoom a lot with this and get a bunch of different looks really quickly for my clients. And it's just like a good all-around like a workhorse. This big bad boy here is my 120 to 300 millimeter f2.8 Sigma lens. This one is what I use all the time in the arena. I'll use this one in the arena a lot too. This is my main workhorse all the time. It's okay to shoot portraits with this. It's not my like first choice. It's not my go-to. Everything does look really nice. That background is even more compressed than this. It just takes everything this does and does it better. It's still at f2.8, but because you get to like 120 to 300 millimeters, your depth field is going to be even shallower than it would be with this one. When you're shooting at that super telephoto range, people's faces still look nice. The background is closer and more blurred out, and there's not a lot to say about this for portraits. I do use it for portraits, especially like a horse portrait, and I can back up and I want to suck the mountain range that's way back there. I want to suck that up closer. Then I'll scoot back and shoot with this at 300 mil, and it'll pull that background closer. If it's really far away, that's nice to do for this. But basically, this doesn't come out a lot for portraits. These are called a teleconverter or a teleextender. They've got a bunch of different names. This one is a 1.4x and this one is a 2x. And either of these will fit on either of these lenses. They won't, however, fit on something like this wide lens. They are not going to make this like these. You can mount these guys on here or vice versa. And this 2x will make this 200 mil, a 400 mil. They'll make this 300 mil, a 600 mil. They basically just take whatever your focal length is and multiply it times 1.4 or 2. The only downfall is when you use this one, you lose a stop of light. So this 2.8 lens becomes an f4 lens, and this one 2.8 becomes 5.6. So you're gonna lose 2 stops of light with this one, 1 stop of light with that one. Okay, so before I get started with all of these lenses and these ones behind me, I did leave out a couple of things from the first video that I just probably should go over now. So there's like the Nifty 50, which is like a 50 millimeter. It would fit in just under this one, and it's like a f1.8. It's a really budget lens, and it's like $100. You can get it for like 100 to 150, just about for any kind of body, Nikon, Canon, Sony, whatever. So everybody makes something like that, and it's a good lens. It's good for portraits, whatever. If you're just getting started, that's all you can afford, great. Who cares about all these lenses, you know what I mean? So if you got $100 to spend on a lens, like somebody gave you a camera body, I don't know, whatever, somehow that's all you got, then just use what you got. You know, you don't have to buy any of this crap. You don't have to buy anything at all. You could rent. You don't have to do anything. You could shoot your trusty your trusty iPhone, you know, or whatever phone you got, whatever camera you got. It doesn't matter. You can get a portrait with anything. I'm just telling you why I use these different things, and like why I spent $90,000 on camera gear and what this crap kind of does. So hopefully this information is going to help you. I'm going to grab this 1DX2 from Canon full frame sensor in here. You know, if you have a full frame sensor, this can be the same. If not, you have to figure out your crop sensor, you know, do the math on it. I'm going to grab this camera and each of these lenses. Brenna is going to stand out here, and I'm going to shoot her at different distances away so I can maintain the same look in the same framing with each lens. So I'm gonna have her start out wide, really close, and then further back with like something like this. At the end, I'll just like sync them all together so you can quickly see the difference and watch like how her face changes and how the background changes, like, and in relation to each other. So you can kind of see like what we're doing and why with each lens. Okay, I'm gonna shoot all of these with basically the same camera settings, just different focal length. We're gonna shoot them all at f2.8. all that said, we went through all these lenses, talked about each one. Now, if it were me, what would I choose? Well, if I'm choosing my favorite lens for portraits, it's going to be this guy. We saw this earlier, we looked at it. This is the 85mm 1.2 f1.2 for all you guys. And this lens is incredible. You put this on a full frame camera body, like a 5DSR is what I usually shoot portraits with. That's going to give you that eye. It's going to be in super sharp focus. But maybe that nose is getting a little fuzzy, maybe the ears are getting a little soft because they're that far away, right? So you got the super crazy shallow depth of field. And then if you got like your model like doing senior portraits or something, you know, and she's laying there facing you, like, you know, and her feet are kicked up behind her, that's gonna like make those feet just fade into the bokeh, right? They're just there, you can tell there's feet back there, but it's just gonna be nice and soft and blurry. And that's what makes this my favorite lens, because you get that like dreamlike look while their eye is still tack sharp. You can still make out their face in fine detail, but like everything else is nice and blurred out, and it looks really professional. And as a bonus tip, I shoot a lot of horse portraits, you might know. So my favorite one, you might think I'd go for like a wide, because horses are bigger, right? You need to be wider. In fact, I'm actually going to go for this 105mm f1.4. This is from Sigma. This is a really good lens for shooting horse portraits because they are a little bit bigger, considerably bigger than a person, right? And shooting at f1.4 still gives you that shallow depth of field. And because you have to back up a little bit, shooting with a longer lens, you still get that really shallow depth of field. So the fall off behind that horse and in front of that horse is going to happen really quickly. So everything's going to go to blurry, to bokeh. Alright, now you know my favorite portrait lenses. What are your favorite portrait lenses? Let me know down below right after you hit that subscribe button. Ding that bell for notifications when I post another video. It'll let you know. And let's see what you got to say. Let's see what kind of pictures you have done. So hit me up on Facebook. Catch you later.